Welcome to the 1% Insight. Today I'm joined by James McCarthy, Marketing Programs Lead at Workvivo by Zoom. At Workvivo by Zoom, which is one of the world's leading employee communication platforms that was acquired by Zoom, James leads and scales marketing programs that helps drive their marketing engine. James also has a keen interest in mindset and career and is a mindset and career coach. This is a conversation you won't want to miss. Welcome to the 1% Insight, James.
Thanks for having me, Jack. Excited to be here.
So let's go back to how it all started and how your journey in marketing began.
Yeah, I guess I would have always kind of had a natural interest in marketing. Back then, when I was being drawn to certain ads and different pieces, I mightn't have called it marketing. I might have called it a cool video way back when. But I've always kind of been drawn to the likes of the Coca-Cola truck ad, the ones we could always, like everybody could kind of recall. Evian babies dancing on the rollerblades, all of those ads that really captured your attention. And I always thought that there was a little bit more behind it than just a case of coming up with a random idea. So I guess I followed that interest, and naturally I found myself at MTU, where I took part in the business course, which eventually broke into the marketing side. Um, Completed my 4 years with a plan of jetting off to anywhere that would take me, Australia, Canada, anywhere else. And then I guess 2020 happened, so I had to adjust my sales, and I decided, okay, I might as well do something with my time. So I looked at different courses that were taking place, and I actually saw that there was a digital marketing master's was taking place with Stephen Ryan at MTU as well. So Stephen would have been, I guess, one of the lectures I would have listened to more so in the 4 years when he spoke about storytelling and different pieces. So it caught my interest, and I decided to do it. From there, it was an interesting one. So I guess all the way up in college, I wouldn't have had applied myself 100%. It would have always kind of been 60, 70%, like, not fully went for it, but I went all in. And I came out pretty well with it. And during my time in that course, I decided to take on part-time jobs as well. As you know yourself, it's an extremely difficult industry to land a job in after, because it's so many people are doing it. Not everybody has experience, and you're trying to find a kind of your differentiator to get into a place. So I did an internship at Trigon Hotels during my 4 years. Then, as I said, when I was doing the master's, I decided to take on an estate agent's job. So what I thought was going to be a kind of social media gig turned out to be a lot more than that. So I ended up almost running the place for a couple of months, but it was a huge learning. And then while doing that, I worked a little bit on the side for my sister's agency, which gave me huge exposure. From there, then I guess once I completed the course, I went on and I worked in photo collection. So it's two hotels in Cork, Photo Island and Kingsley. Great team there, under John Hartnett, who's actually still there. Learned a lot about content creation and different pieces. But I always had a kind of itch to do something different. I guess from my time in Trigon Hotels, I used an application called Workvivo. Now, way back then, it looked a lot different than it does today. It always kind of sparked my interest as a social tool for internal teams. And then I guess I saw them pop up. I liked their content. I was drawn to them. It's kind of the best way I could describe it. Their energy, what they were about, and their mission. Um, so anyway, I saw a job pop up on their social media, and I applied for it. It was a social media role. It was 5 years experience in B2B, something I didn't have. So I was met with a polite rejection, which was perfectly understood. There was hundreds of applicants. I kind of accepted it maybe for 10 minutes, and I said, all right, okay, how can I get in here? I'm not really going to take a no for that. So I reached out to CEO John Goulding, CTO Joe Lennon, and Giddy, their CMO. I wasn't leaving any stone unturned at the time, so I went all in. I guess like what was interesting about my approach was I messaged them as I speak. There was no kind of fancy English, no extra words. It was, I really wanted them to get a sense of the person I was and what I could do. And I guess that's one piece of advice I'd give to anybody who's early in their career. When people are applying for jobs, you need to tell them what you can do for them. It's not about how the job is going to benefit you, it's how they're going to benefit them. So eventually I got in, and the last 2 years, it's been a whirlwind, as we always say in Workvivo. I moved from social media specialist to leading marketing programs. Things are moving really quickly here, which we'll get into a little bit more in a minute. We got acquired by Zoom, which was a huge milestone for us last year. And we were recently named the Meta's preferred migration partner, meaning everybody who would have used the Meta version of our product was now being recommended to use Workvivo. So it's been a hell of a journey so far.
It's an unbelievable story and a lot of experience in a kind of a short period of time as well, with different companies and different industries is that mindset factor, because it would have been very easy, let's say, on the first rejection for that social media role to say, probably 99% of people probably would have said, okay, I'll just go looking for another job, that's it. But you didn't do that, and you kind of persisted and found a new way to go about it. So, and this kind of leans into your experience in mindset and coaching. How important is mindset for people specifically, I guess, in a marketing career?
Yeah, so I guess like I can kind of speak the strongest from a perspective of marketing. Um, Even when you're trying to get jobs and when you get into marketing, so when you do land that job and you're trying different things, marketing is one of those jobs where you constantly have to come up with ideas. Um, 9 times out of 10 they could fail, but when you find that one that really flies, it's always worth it. So you kind of have to get used to taking losses or dealing with like pushback. Um, a funny thing that I always say is just because the idea sounds great in your head doesn't mean when you say it to everybody that it matches with business goals that people are going to be bought in. So you kind of have to take everything in your stride. And a hill that I would actually die on is like your mindset is your life. So everything you're perceiving is based on your mindset. So if you're not working on that, it's very hard to do anything outside of marketing. And then once you get into marketing, if you have a strong mindset, and we always speak about it in the Workvivo team, it's about finding individuals with growth mindsets. So just because someone doesn't have all of the experience, if they come in with the right attitude, like they'll really soar. And we kind of take pride in building a team around that, where everybody like backs each other. If someone comes in, they don't have the experience, as I said, but they have that mindset. That's key, because the person with the right mindset will learn everything and anything that they can. So it's hugely beneficial. If you're just starting off in your marketing career, or if you're taking losses, the successes will come. Personally, how I view it, we've all had lots of losses in terms of like different campaigns, different ideas that flop. I allow myself to kind of sit with it for maybe a couple hours. It does extend to 24 hours sometimes. I kind of start feeling sorry for myself, and then thereafter I draw a line behind it, and it turns from a lesson then into, or sorry, it turns from a loss into a lesson. And if you can keep adopting that mindset, eventually it sticks, and it just happens automatically. Uh, so yeah, number one thing is, roll with the punches, adopt a growth mindset, um, and just make sure that you're backing yourself at every turn.
That's class advice. And I think something, especially in marketing, like you mentioned, you hit the nail on the head there. 9 out of 10 mightn't work, but you're waiting for that one that does work. And you kind of speak a lot about mindset and systems. What mindset, obviously, you kind of mentioned the growth mindset there, but are there any systems that come along with the whole mindset piece?
When it comes to mindset and systems, it depends what you're working on. So you can develop like different practices that help with your mindset. There's a variation of them, and there's sometimes there's too many. So you see like kind of morning routines, nighttime routines. I was watching a podcast recently with Alex Hormozy, and he was kind of saying like you can do the best morning routine in the world. It's not going to get you closer to your goal. You could use that hour in the morning to get yourself closer to the goal. So it's about finding what works for you. For me personally, it's kind of meditation, running, exercise. Um, and if I don't do those things, I feel it. I don't have as much energy. My decision making is a lot slower. But it's one of those things that unless you test it first, or unless you try it and you kind of taste that clarity that you get from doing a certain thing that you want, and it could be anything. It could be walking, it could be reading, it could be anything. Once you find that and once you remove it, that's when you see the value in it. So it's about just finding what works for you. People always ask me like, what should they do, or what do I do that they could do? And it's really about just looking back at what you enjoy and what you get energy from, and most importantly, what actually gives you a bit of peace that you can switch your mind off. Especially in marketing, you know yourself. It's even when you finish at 5 o'clock, your brain is still ticking, the ideas are still running in. You need to be able to park that, or when you wake up the next day, you're fatigued, you can't go, and it's like running on an empty tank.
Like, building a career in marketing probably isn't for the faint-hearted. Especially in fast-growing industries, it can be difficult, and there's a lot to navigate from, because we actually did the exact same course. I did marketing in MTU as well, and Stephen Ryan has actually been
Nice.
quoted on this podcast a couple of times, actually, by a couple of different people. So we'll have to shout out MTU and Stephen Ryan in the marketing department.
Yeah.
It comes with its own challenges as well. It's not easy to go through the whole course, obviously then navigate COVID, which feels like a lifetime ago, but it wasn't. It was very recent, but it feels a long time ago now that it's passed through. The masters, going through jobs. Like, what challenges have you faced in your career? And the whole ethos of this podcast is the 1% changes you can make to keep improving, and kind of keep that kind of mindset of 1% better every day. What challenges have you faced or encountered in your career, and how have you overcome those?
when you're in marketing, if you're changing companies, or even whether you're staying in the same industries or not, you're gonna face changes. So you could really nail like messaging, a persona, the approach, what really works to one audience in one company, and then you could leave there, and it's like starting again. Your whole world of like your mind, like how you see the audience in your ICP, it completely changes. So you need to be able to drop that, but also learn pretty quickly on the job about, okay, like the focus has changed here. What I used to do before, it was great and it worked, but it mightn't work here. For me, a huge challenge was kind of transitioning, I guess, from B2C to B2B, um, and that kind of messaging persona piece and understanding who the buyer is. So it's very easy to look at, for example, in a SaaS company like Workvivo, it's very easy to look at our platform and just say, okay, HR, let's just focus on HR. They're the people who are leading the kind of people initiatives in companies, but they mightn't necessarily be that person who's making the decision. And if you're focusing all of your efforts on someone who it influences them, but they're not the decision maker, you're going to fall flat. So you need to kind of break that into multiple different personas, different messaging. So that's the kind of marketing piece when you're changing industries. I could dive into that a little bit more if you want me to after. But I guess the biggest challenge, and it's something that everybody will face in their career, whether you're 20 or 40 in marketing, it's facing no's. And the best way to kind of deal with no's is if you truly believe it's going to work. If you have a gut feeling, we always speak about this in Workvivo. We look at the numbers and we analyze all of that, but we take into account our gut feeling hugely. It's like rarely let us wrong. John Goulding, CEO, is really, really good gut feeling. Giddy, CMO as well. So we trust our gut. If you really feel like it's going to work, you need to fight for it, or else it'll just be passed. It's easy to get a no. It's harder to get a yes. But if you get a yes and you prove it works, like you're respected and you grow a lot quicker in your career. Yes, there's pressure that comes with that, because if you end up convincing marketing leadership to do something and they're pouring resources and time and all of your time into it, there will be stress that comes with that and challenge in terms of your mindset and how you go about that. But you need to just like go with it. If it fails, it fails. As I said before, it's a lesson. It's not a loss. If you don't do it, you'll never know. It's like that saying. It's like you miss 1,000 of the shots you never take, or something like that. I absolutely butchered that phrase now, but one of those phrases where you need to be shooting your shot and never really accept the first no. If you get 5 no's in a row, you might need to adjust it some bit. But if you do get a hard block no, just find out why. Just ask the question why. It was a post that I put up a couple of weeks ago, I think now at this stage. And I thought it was very interesting. It kind of came to my head. I read it somewhere. But basically, in school, you're told not to ask why. So if you're being taught a lesson and you say, "Why are we learning this?" It's kind of viewed negatively. In business, it's the number one question. Like you'd always get a why. If you're not asking a why, you're being asked a why, and you need to be able to deal with that question on both sides. And when you can, you get so much further with your ideas and your suggestions, but you also show that you care about the business. So it's like if somebody's asking, if I come to our leadership with an idea and it doesn't align to the business objectives or different pieces, and I haven't considered it, the first question I'm going to get is why. And if you consider all of those things and you have an answer for that why, like 9 times out of 10, they're going to take the bet and say, let's do it, let's test that.
You've had a very steep learning of the experience transitioning from B2C to B2B, and it can often come with those challenges as well, being a lot of different buyer personas. It's harder to track it these days. There's multiple stages and touch points you have to have with that B2B buyer in order to maybe get them on a demo, and then it's not even guaranteed that you get them closed. So it can be a very difficult landscape, I guess, in 2024 as well. So from your experience working in a fast growing B2B SaaS company, how can, B2B companies stand out in 2024?
It all kind of comes back to, and this is like something that I would kind of stand on forever. If you take marketing right back, so if you strip everything back and you look at the kind of greatest campaigns or the initiatives that work best, it comes back to a foundation of what do humans want? So what do people want? What it is they want to know that you understand them. And we all have like we're all humans, so we have this innate craving for connection, belonging, understanding. If you can deliver that to your ICP or deliver that to the personas that you're trying to target, we get it, we understand your pain points, let us help you, really, really nail that piece, you're in the door. And what's important to know as well, it's like there's between 90 and 95% of your market, they're not ready to buy. So when you're going out in socials, you're going out in different pieces, you have to take that into account. the companies that's going to fail quickest are going to be ones you're just trying to sell, like sell, sell, sell. We see a lot of inbound in Workvivo, and it's because of that piece where we adjust our content to the trends that are happening in the place. We try to offer value where we can. We show them that we understand their pain points. We're always talking to our customers, listening to people in the industry, and making sure we're aligning with that. Too often, if you don't do that, you're coming from a marketing brain, trying to figure out what an internal comms, IT, different people want. You can run with ideas that sound great to marketing, but if they don't land with your ICP, it's a waste of time. So what I would say is strip it all right back. Always focus on the connection, that belonging piece. If you can connect and truly connect with your ICP, you're onto a winner.
Because there can be, a lot of over complicated on features and benefits and what you think the target customer wants. But at the end of the day, I think, and it's coming more into B2B now, is that more storytelling aspect, brand aspect, where it's trust, that you're having that trust and you're seen as the authority probably in that space, in Workvivo space as well, obviously in the employee kind of well-being and communication.
Just to add to that, so we're speaking very much here about kind of the demand generation piece. So like the first part of the funnel, like you spoke there, the features, the fits, the integrations, that will all come later. So that's when they're trickling down. You've got their interest, they trust you, and then they're like considering to buy. So like they're considering, okay, what's the functionality, what's all that stuff. If you lead with that first, it's very hard to keep it going because people just don't. They're interested to a degree. It's like if you see a marketing tool, you see something that's pretty cool. You look at it and then you kind of lose interest. Whereas if you're actually bought in their message, their mission, like you said, they have that authority, they have that presence, you'll dive a little bit further and you're keen to listen then.
And I think that full approach, because you're obviously speaking to a lot of people that aren't in market just yet or ready to buy. So you have to get their attention, not with features and benefits. How much do you value, I guess, content, especially for those early stages of the funnel, and even to the mid funnel? But to be honest, the content runs down obviously to the latter stages as well when you're having those more kind of in-depth conversations and how it looks and how do you present it. So like what does a company like Workvivo by Zoom, what value do they place on content within their marketing programs?
We place a huge value on content. Everything we do with our content, I think the days are gone of kind of looking at content as just blogs or written pieces. We try to take an overall approach. So everything that we put out on social, we consider it content. Never on our website, it's all considered content. We put a huge focus on it because it essentially builds your brand. So even if you're a lot of people think brand is like the colors and the different pieces, and that has a huge part of it. When you're looking at brand in like a cohesive and holistic place, it's about all of that coming together and offering the same feel. So when you come to Workvivo and you read a social post, and if you just read the post, you don't look at the graphic, you should get the same feeling from that as you should seeing a graphic on another platform that we've posted. And for us, it's all about energy and kind of that support and like people experience, employee experience. Um, and if we're not feeling that from a piece of even a social post we put up, if we post and we say it doesn't really meet the mark, there's a wrong feeling off it, comes back to that kind of gut instinct. If it doesn't work, then we'll just pull it down or readjust it. Um, that's for organic. The paid guys do an absolute stellar job. We have a serious engine in Workvivo, and they're always killing it. So they might give you a little bit more insight into how they approach it, but it's all about the kind of feeling people get when they read or watch any of your content.
The work you've done as well kind of speaks for itself. You won an award by Workvivo as well, and that kind of just shows the level that you're at and how quickly you've been integrated into the company. From your perspective, James, what are you seeing performing well right now in terms of the B2B marketing?
What we're seeing perform best at the moment is, like I said before, it's kind of stripping things back. Um, from a social standpoint, what we're seeing work really well is basics, so really basic designs. And copy, but it hits home, it hits that connection piece. Um, that's what we're seeing works really well, and we kind of lean in on that. It's that scrappier feel. It's almost believed more. So if you get something and it's like that TikTok. We don't do much on TikTok, but it's like if you watch a TikTok and it's just someone walking through the house during the day in life, you're more bought in to listen to them. But if you see something that's really, really polished, you almost don't believe it's true, even if it is. So it's kind of making things relatable and breaking down that gate where people will accept what you're offering them. And what we've seen work recently in the last couple of weeks, we've introduced a new strategy where we're really leaning into that. Um, we're keeping it basic. We're focusing on connection, actually what people experience. For a long time, we were focusing on our ICP, and we still do that. Whereas now we're focusing on the end user. So although the end user isn't the person who makes that call in terms of we're gonna get Workvivo for the company, they have an influence. So if I'm an internal communications or HR manager in a company and I'm on LinkedIn and I see Harry from marketing is liking this post on LinkedIn and it's from Workvivo, it pops up and I'm seeing, okay, so I can see Harry values this messaging. Is this something we should be considering? And if you get to a place where 4 or 5 employees are liking your post and the decision makers that they're connected to in their company see it, that's influence as well. Now it's hard to attribute that, and that's something that it's kind of that marketing Achilles heel. You can't attribute everything, and there's some church stuff is what we call it. But that's the kind of player we're going with at the moment, and we're seeing huge spikes in engagement, impressions. All of our social stats have kind of gone nuts since doing it. So we're really leaning in on the kind of basic, but as I said, at the forefront of all of that, the emotion and the connection piece. And that's something we talk about with the product as well. We're the product that the guys have built at Workvivo. It's to help connections. It's for our people to have an employee experience. We're like what we're seeing is too many people are kind of in companies of maybe 5,000 people, and they only speak with maybe 3 or 4 people that's on their team um, in one country. Whereas with a platform with Workvivo, you can connect with everybody. You could meet someone who you never even knew was on the team in the company, and they have the same passions as you, and then you can connect. And then you go from working in a place where you feel siloed, disconnected, and left out to a place where you feel connected to the culture, you're more bought in, you're more willing to work. And most importantly, you feel like you're part of something bigger.
And that was a great insights on the B2B marketing, James. What platforms are you kind of seeing work well?
We kind of made the decision, I guess, last year to just go all in on LinkedIn. So when I started, my role would have been predominantly social. So I was trying to get kind of light the fire on LinkedIn, um, Twitter. I'm still going to call it Twitter. Any X fans out there are still going to call it Twitter. Instagram and Facebook. And what I was finding was a lot of my time was being split. And as my role progressed and I was taking on different programs, building and scaling them, I really needed to adjust and kind of figure out what was giving us the biggest return and what was our biggest leverage. For us, our audience is LinkedIn. Everybody lives on there who we're trying to target. Um, we have more data to kind of fuel that and kind of guide our ads and different pieces. So LinkedIn is where our huge focus is on. I know that's kind of the process for a lot of brands. Um, and that's where we go hard with organic. We run ads on Meta as well. So we do run ads across Facebook and Instagram, but our big focus organically and content is on LinkedIn. And we just find that LinkedIn is a funny one because it changes so often. And that word algorithm, it's like a banned word. I try not to use it, but it does change every so often. And it's about finding and leveraging that. It's a funny one because like I was only thinking the other day, if I was a brand starting off again, like right from scratch, like B2B, really needed to kind of amplify myself, get stuff going, no budget. You know how it is right at the start. You're trying to put 2 and 2 together. Like LinkedIn has the highest leverage. So if you're starting off and you're not utilizing LinkedIn, you're missing a huge unlock. And it doesn't take a lot to do it. So a huge thing that's happening at the moment is founder-led marketing. You've probably seen it as well for yourself, where founders are just sharing their journey, just sharing the learning, sharing the journey, and what they're doing is building trust and respect. And like I said, it's that piece while ago where their market might be there right now, but if you see John, for example, down the road and he's posting on LinkedIn, he's sharing his journey, and in like 2 years down the time, you're in a company and you're putting two together that you need a certain tool. But John's been posting about it for the last couple of years and he's built up a following. It's huge leverage. And it's also a lot easier to grow personal pages on LinkedIn at the moment. So our focus for the next couple of years is going to be, yes, building the LinkedIn brand page and continuing to build that, but it's going to be about creating a social ecosystem. So we'll have our LinkedIn page and then we'll have members of the team, so employees, different people with opinions and thought leadership, and also kind of utilizing influencers in our space, other thought leaders, so that when you come onto LinkedIn and if you're following our page or if you're interested in what we're speaking about, the topics that kind of assigned as your suggestions, we'll have a surround sound on LinkedIn. It's almost like you can't ignore us. Um, won't get to a place where that's annoying because you can just like keep bashing and stuff. It's just getting to a place where you almost feel like you can't stop seeing Workvivo if you're in RICP.
The balance between personal pages and the company page on LinkedIn is a really interesting one. You can see with engagement a mile away as well. Like a post that goes out on the personal account performs way better than the company account. But there's definitely a place for both. But it's getting that buy-in from your people to lead that and start putting out content. And it's still, the platform itself has so much opportunity, because I don't know what the stats are now. I'm not even going to try and attempt to quote them, but like the percentage of people that consume versus actually create content on LinkedIn is like probably the least amount across any platform. Like the amount of consumption is huge, and the amount of creators are very minimal, like maybe even 1%, on a consistent basis of putting out 3+ posts a week. It's tiny. Like, so the market is there for it. So it's exciting times ahead for it.
LinkedIn is it's a funny one. Like you said, it's like there's a lot of ways you can manipulate it, and you can like create a strategy, and there's different tactics that people are utilizing right now that are really kind of working. Like we're taking a new approach now where we're using like hooks, rehooks, and then bodies of content. So it's like it's in that first second or two where if you don't capture their content, they're scrolling. Like people don't care, and that's a harsh reality that you kind of need to face in marketing. It's like just because it cares, like just because you launch a campaign or something that you really care about, it doesn't mean other people are going to care. You need to get into their mindset and kind of adjust and align to what they want to see and give it to them in the simplest form. People don't want to read like a huge opening paragraph. They want to be able to get the gist of something within 2 to 3 seconds. And if you can nail that piece and you get them to read more, you're bought in. They're bought in as well.
What's the one piece of advice you'd give B2B company looking to grow online in 2024, but also, as we approach 2025?
Depends, and it's probably that two word answer that everybody hates. It depends. What I would say as like a broad kind of instruction and like to try and get people up off the ground, utilize LinkedIn. I know I spoke about it already, but it's going to be your highest leverage. It's free. You can post on LinkedIn for free. You could post 20 posts a day. You could post one. It's all free. Um, don't be afraid to be bad at it. That's what like a lot of people are afraid to do the first post, and that's normal. Everybody gets afraid to do it. But if you can nail a couple of posts, even commit yourself to 3-4 posts a week. When you start building out the team, commit them to 2-3 posts a week. By the time you build out the team to 10 people, you could have 30 posts a week that aren't coming directly from your page, but a kind of ecosystem of people. And as I said before, people are bought in on the journey. People want to know how businesses are growing, what's involved in it. And from that, you get a lot of feedback on both the product, so what you're actually building, and also what your ICP want to learn. But yeah, LinkedIn is definitely, it's a huge unlock. I don't even think we're scratching the surface as to what it could be and what it will be in 5 to 10 years. So yeah, I direct everybody there.
So, James, thank you very much for sharing your 1% insights today. Where can our listeners find you?
No problem. On LinkedIn, funnily enough, LinkedIn is the best place to find me. So James McCarthy 10. There seems to be a lot of James McCarthys out there. I might have to adjust my name or change it in some shape or form, but yeah, that's where I'm most active.
Brilliant. Thanks very much, James.
Perfect. Thanks, Jack.